All right, everybody. Well, hey, thanks for joining us this afternoon. This month, we're going to do a deep dive into SD-WAN, and it's going to be presented by our smartest person, Mike Chase, who will be taking over here in a few. Uh, I just wanted to kind of provide a quick intro for you. I mean, look, if you aren't talking to your clients about SD-WAN, your competitor will. I mean, SD-WAN is probably the hottest topic in the channel today, and all the surveys that we've been doing from marketing, you said it's what your clients want to hear about. So, whether the clients are ready to deploy today or next year, they still want to learn what their options are, and of course they want to know what the technology can do for them. But there are a bazillion different providers out there these days, it seems. I mean, how do you navigate through the overwhelming 30-plus SD-WAN vendors to determine which one is right for your client's applications? So we're going to help you with that. By the end of this webinar, you will have a deeper understanding of SD-WAN technology, the vendors, and what their capabilities are, kind of how they differ. We'll also discuss how AireSpring's position as an aggregator works to your advantage from a project and product management perspective. Our presenter today is Mike Chase, Principal Solutions Architect at AireSpring. Mike is the co-founder and former CTO of several cloud ventures, including one of the first cloud service providers to offer hosted virtual desktops worldwide. I feel like we should have like the theme song from the Most Interesting Man in the World beer commercial in the background here, because Mike really is very interesting. His nickname is Dr. Cloud for a reason. He's a published author with over 25 plus years of experience in design with such firms as Wells Fargo, IBM, Mobil Oil, Union Oil, LA Cellular, Capitol Records, AT&T, Broadcom, and it goes on and on and on. Mike holds 20 plus years industry certifications, 20 plus industry certifications, such as the prestigious, of course, Cisco Certified Internet Work Expert, CCIE, number 7226, Linux LPIC2, VMware Certified Professional, and others, along with a Juris Doctor degree in law from California Southern University. I think he's also maybe like a Navy SEAL and a surgeon, and I don't know, man, the guy's a freak. So, Mike, over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Charlie, and thanks to all of you for joining today. I'm Mike Chase. We'll kick this off. This is what we're going to go over today. We just went through the introduction. We're going to go through product overview. Give you the cliff notes. Over the last several months, we've talked about 30-plus vendors. We'll tell you where AireSpring fits into your SD-WAN plans. We'll talk about network security. And then stick around toward the end. We've got some really great product news, spiffs, and upcoming events that we want to talk to you about. So once again, I'm Mike Chase. Over the years, out of raw curiosity and sheer necessity, I've racked up a lot of different certifications and a law degree while gaining experience across telecom, data centers, cloud, and many other parts of the tech industry. During that time, I wore a lot of different hats, from co-founder to being a guy in the trench carrying a bag making that sale. Sound familiar? Well, I feel your pain. So if you want to sell more than just ice cubes to Eskimos, then call me and my team at AireSpring. We'll help you sell the glacier that goes underneath the igloo that those ice cubes were intended for. Bottom line, you throw us a fish, we'll show you a whale, and toss in a polar bear as a spiff. Not bad, right? So the mission of the pre-sales engineering team that I lead here at AireSpring is pretty straightforward. First, to make complex technologies very simple, like SD-WAN, so that they're easy to understand. After all, people sell and buy what they know. Second, to help you illustrate new and intriguing use cases that motivate your customers to buy from you. We get very creative, and it's a lot of fun. Finally, to design and deliver these solutions in such a way that builds trust today and keeps everyone coming back tomorrow. That's what it's all about. So please, link to me on LinkedIn, and at the end of this deck, I'll have my contact information, including email address and phone number. So please don't be a stranger. At least pop off a note and say hi, if nothing else. So why are people buying software-defined wide area networking, or SD-WAN, anyway? 5 key drivers show us the answer. First off, nearly everyone is in the cloud. I know because I ran a cloud company for years, hosting banks, major financial firms, healthcare companies, law offices, and everything from small to extra-large businesses of all flavors. There's no better or faster way to get connected to a cloud and have a quality link than SD-WAN. We'll get into the reasons why, but driving that quality of experience, or QoE as they call it, in the cloud, has a lot to do with how you're connected to it, and SD-WAN helps that effort tremendously. Second, these cloud services deliver a new and dizzying array of choices when it comes to applications, so it's no surprise, but apps are literally exploding onto the digital landscape of every business out there via software as a service, or SaaS providers as we like to call them. For example, many businesses rely on Salesforce.com, Zendesk for help desk ticketing, and thousands of other SaaS providers every single day. So, in addition to protecting your connectivity to these critical resources, being able to prioritize applications is vitally important. SD-WAN gives you the ability to see in real time what apps are running, limit their bandwidth, or block them entirely. That's a critical feature to have when you're dealing with a boatload of new apps, many of which pop up without any warning in the middle of your business network, as users are often allowed to bring their own devices to work. And even if, let's say, you decide to allow everyone access to, for example, YouTube, SD-WAN allows you to do things like limit them to standard definition videos, not high definition videos, which can literally be the difference between 1 meg per user to as much as 5 megs or more per user. And if you do the math, 20 users would consume 100 meg or more of bandwidth. That can really bring things to a standstill depending on the size of your existing pipe. Third, remote offices are now the norm. And whether it's a home office or a much larger office, the services are often very similar, supporting IP phones, internet, private connectivity to corporate resources, and having robust security if internet is allowed out of the edge versus being forced out of a central location at corporate, etc. Because SD-WAN is an overlay technology, it can run any type of underlay circuit you throw at it, including MPLS, Internet, LTE, EOC, fiber, broadband, and bond them all together into one big pipe. More on that later in this deck, but overlays are the encrypted SD-WAN tunnels with the traffic, and underlays are any type of circuit that's being used for transport. Easy, right? Fourth, SD-WAN tackles network complexity. Adds, moves, changes to your network all involve a lot of risk and in turn burn a lot of resources to manage and engineer them. With SD-WAN, all of this can be done transparently with no downtime to the customer thanks to many different features, including sub-second failover that protects even stateful traffic from being disrupted. Last but not least, the legacy way of managing a wide area network, or WAN, was very time-consuming, often requiring a network expert or DevOps expert, plus numerous types of management software to implement network-wide changes. And when you consume a lot of time, you consume a lot of money and inherently incur a lot of risk. Adding or deleting circuits had to be planned. Changes to internet circuits often meant that migration of things like IP address blocks, changes to DNS, and other painful considerations. That's no longer the case. SD-WAN is phenomenally easier to configure, make, and roll back changes, and allows the migration of public IP blocks and internet-facing services without the need for complex routing protocols like BGP or changes to DNS. For example, AireSpring can deliver a public IP block over SD-WAN that stays sticky with the particular site that's hosting the resources facing the internet, and AireSpring SD-WAN makes it impervious to underlay circuit disruptions and allows the site to move to a new carrier or even new location without having to change the IPs. Amazing, right? So, moving on to the next slide. Over the last few months, myself and our team at AireSpring spoke to dozens of SD-WAN vendors. We analyzed their sales pitch, position in the competitive landscape, their venture capital funding, if any, revenue, employee base and org structures, their hardware, software, architecture, portal interfaces, APIs, features, coding methods, and specific implementation techniques. We met with their management, engineering, and development teams, and finally subjected numerous vendors to live trials. It's a daunting task, as you can see from all the logos that are in this graphic. And as always, when the technology landscape changes, AireSpring updates its offering. So the takeaway from this slide is this. Almost none of the SD-WAN vendors are like the others. Some have features no one else has. And even when they claim to have the same features, they are often implemented in a wildly different manner than their competitors. Yet, through it all, each one in any given scenario might be the perfect solution above all others. However, the 30-plus vendors and more entering the market every day can really be put into 4 categories. Long-haul vendors are companies like Ariaka and 2 to 3 others who specialize in primarily international connectivity, where there's an emphasis on long-distance backhaul, and in turn, the need to accelerate and optimize applications at a very granular level, often within the TCP/UDP protocol stacks. Carrier-grade SD-WAN vendors like VeloCloud and Viptela, who is acquired by Cisco, Versa Networks, FatPipe, Nuage, Silver Peak, and a handful of others focus on integration with carrier IP core technologies like MPLS, the ability to massively scale, things like multi-tenancy, and being able to bond public and private circuits like MPLS plus Internet into larger unified pipes is something that carrier-grade SD-WAN solutions do best. Enterprise SD-WAN solutions make up the bulk of the vendors in the market today, with companies like CloudGenix, Accessa, Elfiq, and others who focus on features important to the do-it-yourself enterprise crowd, with robust routing features, intuitive interfaces, simplified setup, and so on. Last but not least are the over-the-top or the OTT providers. These SD-WAN solutions like Big Leaf and others don't provide any site-to-site or LAN-to-LAN connectivity. Rather, they often go in front of firewalls in many cases and enhance popular services like VoIP and SIP trunks, virtual desktops, and software-as-a-service offerings. As such, they often target cloud service providers and or managed service providers eager to enhance their customers' experience. But as you can see, all four types of SD-WAN vendors fill unique areas in the connectivity landscape. Now, many of you already know that AireSpring is a price leader who specializes in multi-site deployments. This is because AireSpring is a carrier aggregator, not just a reseller of 16-plus carriers, but we have facilities and skin in the game via data centers across the nation in places like Los Angeles, Dallas, Chicago, and New York that are connected to all these carriers via NNI gateways. We are the glue. We mark and remark IP packets with quality of service DSCP values end-to-end between all carriers while creating a unified network and enforcing that contractually, even as we foster personal relationships with each peer carrier's engineers to get the job done. As such, you get all the choices, but none of the penalties in every deployment that you make with AireSpring. Think about it. Any carrier, any technology, any solution, any vendor, yet one team, one quote, one unified network, one support structure, and one bill. This is really important when things go wrong. I'll give you a real-life example. AireSpring processes over 30 billion SIP phone calls a year, and that number is rapidly increasing along with our market share. That's over 2.5 billion a month, or roughly 83 million a day, 3.5 million an hour, 58,000 a minute, and 40 per second. Now, while deploying an SD-WAN solution in a complex design, we ran across an issue where the IP phones with line appearances configured for MLHG, or as many of you know that is multi-line hunt group, was not working. This is, of course, a very common feature, but just like SD-WAN, not all features that do the same thing are implemented the same way. And that's true for other technologies like IP phones, where they get implemented by vendors differently as well. So a Cisco phone versus a Polycom phone may have the same feature, but they handle it differently. Pretty wild, right? Because right about now you're thinking to yourself, well, there's standards in the industry, and surely SIP is a standard, and SD-WAN should follow standards too, right? Well, as we all know, really bad things sometimes happen in the real world, and isn't how that's handled the true measure of any relationship, including the important one you have with your carrier. So long story short, we put top-notch network engineers and top-notch SIP voice engineers onto the problem, and we have the guys who can debug everything down to the packet level and even tell you how it tastes. I kid you not. And in a matter of, we delivered a fully documented tech package to the vendor to say, you have a bug, here it is, fix it. And they did. Why? Because even in the chaotic merger and acquisition environment we all live in with telecom today, AireSpring has the spend, the relationships, the contracts, and the technical expertise to make it happen. That's a huge weight off your shoulders as all these new technologies like SD-WAN roll out, and it's a huge weight off the shoulders of your customers. Bottom line, AireSpring gets the job done. It's that simple. Now, just out of curiosity, we scoured Google and other news sources to see what our partner carriers had chosen for their own SD-WAN solutions. We even talked to quite a few of them, as we do all the time, because, of course, we're connected at the network level to nearly all of them, and we have some great personal relationships, too. So what we learned was some made early choices and then added to them. Others intend to sell SD-WAN with a single one-size-fits-all approach, and still others made choices based on APIs and other aspects which fit better with their long-term network function virtualization or NFV long-term goals as they strive for things like universal CPE, virtual cross-connect, service chaining, unified threat management, faster provisioning, and more. All this tells us is that the future of SD-WAN is here to stay, and it gets brighter every single day. So this slide shows a lot of features that used to be done by a lot of different boxes in your network. Not anymore. All of it can be done on SD-WAN, and this is one of the many reasons you'll start to hear the term universal CPE or universal customer premise equipment more often. SD-WAN is going to simplify our lives and make the provisioning of services nearly instantaneous with virtual cross-connect, service chaining, add-on features, and a lot of new functionality. So there's definitely exciting times ahead for sure. Now, certain SD-WAN solutions can also have a dramatic positive impact on applications, and that provides a much, much better user experience and perception. It does this by getting granular with specific application stacks and improving that performance via various techniques such as data reduction, optimized path selection, termination and regeneration of protocol traffic like TCP, and enforcing quality of service and quality of experience, QoS and QoE, in real time, with the ability to make sub-second path changes and failovers which are imperceptible to users. It's absolutely terrific. Now, in the past, if you had two MPLS circuits, you couldn't use them at the same time. The BGP routing protocol forced you to have an active circuit and a passive circuit for standby. Failover on a good day took between 5 and 60 seconds. And while MPLS was a private network, some people won't consider it secure unless it's also encrypted. Well, SD-WAN improves all of that. You can have two MPLS or an MPLS plus an internet circuit, or frankly any two circuits, and bond them together into one big pipe while protecting the services that flow across them transparently. And while MPLS was private, SD-WAN as an overlay to an MPLS or any underlay circuit means that you can now make them secure with AES 256-bit military-grade encryption. Failovers are now stateful and occur in less than 1 second or sub-second, as we like to say. Now, application visibility and control is a big driver for SD-WAN. The problem with network monitoring in the past was that it often wasn't real-time. You do an interval polling at, often between 1 and 5 minutes, and it wasn't doing, and doing anything about what you saw was difficult, if not impossible. With SD-WAN, you can see it, and you can do something about it in real time. Things like allow, throttle, or block can now be done at the click of a button. Because SD-WAN is so good in real time at watching and responding to traffic conditions, mixing in less reliable broadband circuits is not a problem. In fact, in places where you can only get one circuit, and that connection drops a lot of packets, rendering IP phones unusable, you've got to keep packet loss at under 1% with IP phones, certain SD-WAN vendors can correct the condition, and that's truly amazing. I mean, some of the things that we've seen is, you can be dropping 10-15% packets, and depending on the solution, that can get mitigated down to under 1% and still use those IPs. So that's absolutely terrific and a great feature to have. So where does SD-WAN fit? The use cases are what bring it all together and make it very, very exciting. Leveraging SD-WAN connectivity for day one is huge. It makes the customer happy, and it puts money in your pocket day one. At AireSpring, we can bond anywhere from 2 to 8 wireless connections together to bring a big pipe, to create a big pipe rather, until the final circuits come in. Once they come in, what I found is that many customers choose to keep the wireless LTE and relegate it to failover duty. That's a win-win. AireSpring is really a buffet menu of technology and expertise, so just know that when it comes to failover, we got it nailed. We can take all these different carrier circuits and technologies and tie them into a unified network. So if you want to do like IPsec to VPN to MPLS, no problem. Multiple SD-WAN solutions into one network, no problem. The list is endless, and you'll find that when you engage my pre-sales engineering team and we start designing different solutions in different scenarios. It's really exciting. Just hammering the point home with this slide, the bottom line is that we want you to stay up. Meanwhile, we leverage our expertise, contracts, and relationships with the upstream carriers to get things fixed in the background. SD-WAN can't change the latency between Site A and Site B. However, it can control the jitter or the variability of latency between sites. It can correct out-of-order packets, and it can recreate lost packets. Mechanisms used by SD-WAN vendors to achieve this vary, but include things like packet duplication over a single link, packet duplication over multiple links, which is often called striping, or in some cases by utilizing complex algorithms like erasure coding with advanced parity to recreate lost or mangled packets, among others. So again, one circuit or many circuits, your quality of experience or QoE is exponentially better with SD-WAN. And when it comes to security, SD-WAN is the leader. All of SD-WAN's overlay traffic tunnels are encrypted, so you don't care about what underlay circuit is being used. Various SD-WAN vendors have features like firewalls, web filtering, network-level antivirus, intrusion prevention, and other features which are part of a unified threat management, or as they call it, a UTM architecture, all of which reside on the same SD-WAN box. Combine that with cloud-level service chaining, virtual cross-connects, and so many other that are hitting the SD-WAN market today, and your feature list explodes into an array of goodness. Definitely fun times ahead for sure. In addition to the SD-WAN CPE being delivered on-site as hardware, nearly every vendor has a virtual machine that can be spun up to connect cloud, SaaS, and managed service providers quickly and easily into your corporate network, which itself may already be virtualized, and you can leverage a virtual machine form factor there as well. Now, when it comes to visibility, again, this is a key theme for most SD-WAN vendors. Seeing who is generating the most traffic in your network by looking at the top talkers or domains they're communicating with the most, or applications, which ones are generating the traffic, is easily done at a glance. Also, knowing the overall health of 20 or 100 or 1,000 sites becomes apparent at a glance as well. Many SD-WAN portals include role-based access, allowing carriers to give customers granular access and customers to give employees variant access, making everyone happy. From a carrier standpoint, features are greatly simplified too, because we can troubleshoot a lot faster, including grabbing a packet capture instantly without a lot of setup and insertion time into the network. We can implement corrected policies and deliver documented examples of network conditions and eliminate guesswork. Now, underlay circuits used in SD-WAN, they do not have to be symmetric. The upstream and downstream bandwidth can vary, and this one reason is why any type of circuit can be utilized as part of a bonded larger pipe that SD-WAN will create as it forms the overlay network tunnels and begins pushing traffic. So where does AireSpring fit into your plans for SD-WAN and more? Now, the one way to pigeonhole yourself quickly in SD-WAN is to purchase private circuits like MPLS or others without leveraging AireSpring, and then try to bond it with public internet circuits. Bonding private circuits of any kind and public circuits together requires the ability to glue them together at the back end of the carrier. This is no easy task. That's why people get lazy and say things like, oh, SD-WAN is a replacement for MPLS, and it's just not true. SD-WAN is a marriage, not a divorce when it comes to MPLS, and every single CEO and co-founder of every SD-WAN company that I've spoken to agrees with me. So unless you believe that you can get all your needs met both now and in the future by one carrier with a limited set of solutions in geography, then your best bet is to leverage AireSpring so you can use any carrier with any circuit type with many SD-WAN solutions to choose from, and yet get one unified network, one support team, and one bill from it all. Don't pigeonhole yourself. We have over 16 carriers in our portfolio today. So when you're trying to put all these together, I mean, do you really want to manage, for example, all these different solutions independently, or would you rather just do it again in a unified network with a unified support team? And that's really the value that we're bringing. Again, this slide just drives home the message. You get all the choices, none of the penalties, great unified team and solution set end to end. Now keep in mind, we're connected with AireSpring's data centers via network-to-network interface, or NNI gateways, and that plus our in-house technology and expertise is how we glue them all together to create a unified network where we're marking and remarking the QoS packets between the carriers, enforcing it contractually, and fostering those deep relationships between us and the other carriers. I mean, I'm actually going to see a few in a week and a half here. So now you're all familiar with the merger and acquisition chaos gripping the telecom industry today. It's impacting service delivery, support, and your margins. Your shield against this is AireSpring, okay? With expertise in multi-site service delivery, a unified network and support team, and evergreen commissions, you're protected. So that's really the takeaway from this slide, because you can see, you know, GTT bought Global Capacity, Verizon bought XO. That's creating a lot of chaos in the industry, and you guys are all very, very familiar with that. Now, when we glue all the carriers together, this is a simple illustration of what it looks like. It's truly a carrier and technology agnostic environment that plays well with everyone, and this is done across all of our data centers nationwide. Now, you've probably heard there's no quality of service or QoS in the internet, and that's true when you're hopping between carriers, but at AireSpring, we're peered into the core backbones of all our partner carriers, and our managed connectivity with QoS via internet ensures voice-grade quality for IP phones and more. We can also encrypt using TLS and SRTP. This makes a great primary or failover option that's feature-rich for both voice and data applications. Now, traditionally, we've also offered SonicWall and other firewalls as service offerings, and still do. I see this merging with SD-WAN, but whatever form it takes, just know it's something that you can get from us today and in the future because it's an important service. It's easy to get a firewall up, but as a guy with dozens of certifications, I can tell you that greater than 80% of the firewalls I've looked at are either misconfigured or under-configured. And that's illustrated here because there's a lot of bells and whistles when it comes to security products. Configuring, monitoring, tuning, upgrading security software and hardware is time-consuming. However, you can sell this to your customers knowing that AireSpring makes it easy and delivers the proof of how much value this adds to them on a monthly basis via a report. And when customers renew, it's often time for a new firewall or appliance, and we'll handle the new replacement and e-waste of the old box, which is great for the customer and even better for the environment. As we start to wind down a bit, just remember that we can do many carriers, many different circuit types, redundancy, failover, security, and inject engineers for design sessions to get really shoulder to shoulder with you to make it happen. I love nothing better than to fly out and hunt those deals with you and make it happen and make the customers happy. So please leverage me and my team. Meanwhile, a lot of what we do is free. That's right. AirNMS, AirCare, and so many other benefits are done at no charge. A lot of people may or may not know, but we also allow you to mix customer-provided connectivity or customer-provided bandwidth. You'll often hear us say CPC or CPB for these terms, with most, if not all of our offerings. So, for example, with SD-WAN, the overlay network with AireSpring can incorporate public internet underlay circuits that you didn't get from us. We'll do that with voice as well as SIP trunks, etc.